Well, happy evening, folks. Here it is. Wednesday evening. I'm going live right now, as you can tell. And just adjusting my mics. I walked in here to go live, and my kids have things all over my desk and chips crunched all over my floor, and my mic is all turned around. And hopefully you can hear me well. And it's coming across all right. I hope they didn't mess with my settings at all. So, how y'all doing tonight? I'm going live because I did not get a chance to pre-record a show today, which I wanted to do. And so we're going live instead. And this is not being broadcast over on Odyssey Radio, sad to say. For the Odyssey Radio listeners, which is over at odysy1.com. You can go see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio. But everybody's joining here tonight on the YouTube channel. And I appreciate all of you who are taking your time to be here. And good to see y'all. Let's just go, because we're live, I can say, hey, Leslie, good to see you here today. And also, Matt Finn, good to see you, brother. And taking the ship out, I see. And Sarah Nichols, good to see you. And Field Guy and Scott Allen. All of you over there today. And Leslie, thank you, by the way. I just saw that. I just scrolled up and I saw your $20. Thank you very much. That goes to a good cause. I appreciate everything you do for this show. And if any of you are not members of this channel, just go hit the join button. And you hit that join button, and it's going to take you to a place where you can see 3 different ways to become members of this program. And so go check it out and join up with us and become a member. And I've held off on doing any other special perks right now till I get down to Louisiana next week. And we're going to do a couple of things. We might do a morning show on Friday of this week. Not on Saturday because I'll be on the road, but we'll get things going back in again. So Iowa X, good to see you. That's what's shaking. And so I am ready on Saturday morning to take off for Louisiana for a few months. And I'm going to go pick up my son in North Carolina. So I'm going straight south to Lake Charles, Louisiana. I mean, it's even on the map. It's a straight line, straight down the freeway, the interstate. But I got to go all the way over to the East Coast to Charlotte, North Carolina, and pick up my son, and then drive down to Lake Charles. So it's going to be a couple 1,000-mile trip. And but that's okay. I love road trips. I like stopping at places. I like seeing things. It's fun, more fun when it's a vacation. But you know what? If you're taking a road trip, and even if I'm going out to work, I'm going out to work with a friend of mine who invited me to come out and work with him with his company. And so if I take an extra day to get there because I'm stopping to see a couple of things along the way, we're not blowing up anybody's schedule or having any problems of any kind. So Scott Allen, I'm going to be in Louisiana probably through the end of May, which is technically, that's actually 4 months. It's going to be February, March, April, May. And I'll come back sooner if I need to. I'm definitely going to come home every few weeks and visit my wife and family. We will keep a daily video chat going on between us all, my wife, my family, and I. And it's a necessity. Let's put it that way. Things don't always, in the field I'm in, it's a roller coaster. They don't always come in the way you want them to. And it's been a rather slow year so far. Well, calendar year, we're only a month in. But the last 6 months, the last 2 quarters have been a little rugged. So I had this opportunity to go down and work with my buddy's company. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do all my art at the same time, keep my graphics going. I'm going to keep my writing up. I'm going to keep this show going every day. Everything will be just as it normally is. except I'm also going down to help with this company. Do I like the idea? I mean, how many of us really, if we're given the opportunity, how many of us want to leave home, leave our loved ones, leave our family behind, our kids, your wife, your husband, however it might be? I know this used to happen a lot in days gone by, in old times, even 100 years ago. Itinerant workers, and they'd have to leave their families. I don't like the idea of doing it. Thank God, nowadays we've got high-tech communication. I've got my cell phone. I've got my computer. I've got any number of ways that I can do. Just like you're watching me, I can have this kind of a conversation with my family, with my kids, and interact that way. So that's a good thing. And so it's going to be an interesting few months. And my hope, knock on wood, is to come back and take care of some things that we want to do up here. We want to get into a little bit of property and build a new house, some things like that. And I feel like I'm spinning my wheels right now because my particular business isn't flying, isn't taking off the way I would like it to right now. And it's been rather flat because of COVID, of course, and the restrictions and things like that. Not so much that what I do is not in demand in certain circles. It's that people aren't using the kind of services I do. And there's a lot of people in this. And so there it is. It's a competition thing. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to do a little something else to generate some revenue for my family. So, yeah, Matt Finn, I'm with my family all the time. Ever since my kids were born, I have been working at home. My wife has been at home, and she just started a few months back doing her massage again. Well, it was about a year ago. And then of course, COVID hit and that all shut down and yada, yada. We talked about all that before. So the nice thing is we've always been around each other. And so I'm not real fond of taking off for several months. But the nice thing about it is that the payoff could be really good. And so if it works the way it sounds like it's going to work, this time I did this a couple of years ago and it fell a little flat, but this time my friend owns the company. And so it's changing things up a bit in that sense. So I'm all right. Yeah, field guy. Yeah, I'm not into high places either. It's not because I'm into crawling up on a roof that I'm doing this. I do this out of necessity. And so now I'm not doing the actual physical laying shingles and roof board and things like that. I'm the guy that's going out and selling it because it's in an area that's every other roof has been destroyed by storms. And so what I have to do is go door to door and sell our services, look at any damage that's been done in the house, and I'm in charge of bringing in the crews that are going to do the repairs, implement the repairs. So that's what I did before, and there's potential of doing pretty well. So, hey, thanks, Matt Finn. I appreciate that. If that was for me. So, yeah, it's not about doing roofing. So the only time I've had to get up on a roof, field guy, is when I was out in Utah and Wyoming 2 years ago. Take a ladder, crawl up on the roof, and you got to find all the little divots left by the hail. There were big hailstorms out there. And you mark them, I circle them in chalk, and that's about all I do. Being up in dangerous, I've never really had any danger of falling and, breaking my skull open because you can usually, on a panel of a house, you can figure it out. If it's too steep, I don't do it. And I say there's different ways to look at this. And so that's basically what I'll be doing here. So it's not a big deal. So, yeah, most of Lake Charles got destroyed, so it all has the blue tarp. That's the thing. You go look at even now, even though those Google pictures of areas, the satellite, Google Earth and things like that aren't all current, you can go over there and look, and you can see the neighborhoods in Lake Charles, and more than half the houses still have blue tarps all over them. And so that's where we go, and that's what I'll be doing. So it's not what I do. It's not writing. It's not speaking. It's not doing radio. It's not doing illustration work and design work, which I've been doing for 40 years. It's saying those things are a little bleaker at the moment. And so I'm going to go do something to augment my revenue stream. And going to Walmart and working 6 to 8 hours a day or 32 hours so they don't have to pay you full time per week is an awful lot of waste of time for the return on the dollar. This is going to be return on dollar. That's what I'm looking at. If I had no other options, no other skills, nothing else I could do, if I needed extra revenue, I'd go get a job at Walmart, something like that, stocking shelves, whatever it might be. But this is something that will take me away from home, but it will hopefully help us produce what we need to do to move life on in the direction that we want to keep going. So there you go. Hey, Susie Q, good to have you here. And nice to see you in. And so that stabbing at the Wally World in Lake Charles was crazy. Oh, see, now I haven't heard about that. But I'm sure I will going down there. So anyway, I'm going to travel out on Saturday, go get my son out in North Carolina, visit my daughters, and then head back in the big triangle. Like I said, Minneapolis, St. Paul up here, you go straight line south. You hit Lake Charles, Louisiana. But I'm starting up in the Minneapolis area, just a little east where I live. And I'm going down to North Carolina, out on the coast, then down to Lake Charles. So it's about, I think it's like 1,100 miles this way and 950 miles coming back because it's a little further south over there. So it's a big, long triangle. So it'll be interesting. I like a road trip. We'll see if we have a good time with it. Yeah, I heard about that field guy. Teenagers getting in a fight and stabbing each other. Pretty sick. Hey, Morgan Snow. Your hubby did that too. He was gone for a half a year and came back every 2 weeks or so. Yeah, see, that's kind of what I'll be doing, Morgan. I don't want to be gone for a half a year, and I don't want this to be an ongoing thing. I don't like the idea of going away and leaving my wife and family for months at a time. So I'll go down there and I'll try to get back maybe at least once a month, get back every 3 weeks or so. Try to get back here for a long weekend. We've already got a few events that are planned in the family, familial events that I want to get back for. But I want to return back here nice and solvent to start working on building our house. So that's it. And my buddy is then thinking of opening up a branch of his company up here, which is where he's from, up in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. So my son might come back up here, and we might end up working for him more often than not if he's going to be around here. So Leslie says we're just a hop, skipping away. If Rainey needs help with something, Andy's a great handyman. I'll just get you guys together so you guys can talk, lay some groundwork for getting together every now and then or something like that. So anyway, there's all of that. So early next week, there will not be a Sunday show with Rainey and I this coming Sunday, and may not be a Monday or Tuesday show. I've got to get set up down in Lake Charles to do my broadcasting and stuff like that. So there we are, and I'll keep you all appraised. Just watch my Facebook. Do any of you get the Facebook messages? It's kind of funny. I can put up a birthday greeting to my daughters and get 150 people today. Wish my daughters happy birthday, my twin daughters. I put up my posts for my radio show and I get 3 to 5 likes on Facebook. I don't know if that's the algorithms, if it's not sent out because I'm sharing something like that, or what it is, or people just don't see them, or they're like, hey, I go anyway, I don't need to like that. So I'm not sure if you're seeing those announcements, but I put announcements up over there to kind of keep everybody updated as to what's going on. I might, during the travels, depending on where we stop, what we do, what I see, I might do just a couple of impromptu live spots on this channel here on my YouTube channel. So we'll see what happens with that as well. So, yeah, that's weird, field guy. So, yeah, Facebook is mean and ugly, isn't it, Leslie? It's ridiculous. I have more people now that try to take me down for the things that I post about politics or current events or something like that. And I just don't have anything to do with that. It's like, hey, you know what? You're showing your true colors. Your president that you voted for, Joe Biden, was pushing unity. Has it occurred to all of you yet that that was just a way to try to win votes? It was politicking, which is what Joe Biden does. He's been in politics for 50 years. So that's the way I see Facebook going right now. And I had a couple of different things I wanted to do tonight. And I think I am going to do a little spark courage, these 50 ways to be bold. And it's these faux matchsticks I have that I know that we haven't done all 50 of these, but we keep hitting some of the ones we've done as opposed to finding new ones. So here you go. Here's one. Now this will fit into stuff I'm doing right now. There's things I'm going to be doing I don't want to do. Said I don't want to leave my family, all that kind of stuff. And this says, be fueled by optimism and possibly, that's backwards for me. Be fueled by optimism and possibility rather than fear. Be fueled by optimism and possibility rather than by fear. Let me ask you that. Are you fueled by your optimism? Are you fueled by the possibilities? Are you, I'm not calling out names, but field guy, I know the kind of situation you're in, and you've shared that with most people in this chat room, the kind of situation you're in. Is your situation fueled by your fear or fueled by your disdain or fueled by the things that bother you? Or is it fueled by the possibilities and by optimism? And anybody, and field guy, I didn't mean to call you out that way. I don't mean that in any negative sense. But same thing for me. I'm talking here about having to go do something I don't really want to do. And so it's easy to get very negative about it. I talk about posting on Facebook, something as silly and ridiculous as that, and how that the negative immediately comes up. And I say all the negativity that's out there. And yet, am I fueled by my fear, by my anger, by the things that piss me off, by my frustrations with the world? Or am I fueled by my optimism and looking at the possibilities? This is life is all about the possibilities. What was it? Remember, I've said it a few times in things we've talked about. We used to have that old phrase in church work: if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. Conversely, looking at that and thinking about that, if you will, you can talk about it literally, you can talk about it metaphorically. If there's a devil out there that's throwing a wrench in the gears, a demon in the mix of your own making or somebody else's making, are those the things that fuel the way you act and the way you perceive how you should take your steps forward? Or do you say, no, I am full of optimism, I'm full of possibility? Now I look at this and I say, I don't want to go away from my family. I don't like doing that. There was a day where that was pretty cool. I mean, when I was traveling and I was going to Egypt back and forth, and I was going to Honduras back and forth, and England and Scotland back and forth, and all of these things traveling around the country, those were all things that were fantastic. And I didn't mind being away from people I loved and cared about because I was doing and I was pursuing. Now that I've got a family and I've got my children, and I've got my wife, I don't like taking off from them. And so I tend to paint that as a negative. That's a negative in my life. Why don't I flip that around and say the fear of being away, fear, the anger, the disgust, the frustration. I can flip that all around and say, but there's great possibility and there's great optimism in the things I want to do. I'm doing this for a reason. Is it possibly another 4-month chunk, a 1/3 of a year out of my life away from my loved ones? I don't like that. I don't like the having to do something like that. But when you come to the final decision, say, I've got to make a move like this and I've got to do this for a while, there is possibility and great opportunity in pursuing something like this. So Morgan says, I'm always optimistic that I'll have enough money to pay my bills and have some over. I am too. I'm generally always optimistic about that. We aren't in the poorhouse yet, knock on wood. We've had our ups and downs. We've had our good times and our bad times. We've had our wealthy periods and our poor periods, and it's a roller coaster. But you know what? It's something where I'm now 60. I'm really hoping by 65 I can be established in a way for my family with certain things I've got in the works, certain things I'm working on. I have hope. I have optimism. I have possibilities. And again, having intention and visualizing and then manifesting that. It's all me putting my nose to the grindstone, me making the moves, me making something happen. Because if I don't do that, nobody's going to do it for me. So I have to be positive. And I have to look at the possibilities of doing the hard work. Writing a book. You might think, oh, what a great way to make a living. Well, that's if the book takes off. If it does things that we hope it will do, that'll be fantastic. At the same time, I've got to go through the daunting process of finishing writing the book. In and around trying to earn enough money to keep the lights on, to pay the bills, to keep the pressure off, to get the knee off the neck, so to speak, the boot off the neck, which came long before George Floyd and all that political crap around that. So there's the question. I'll state it again, or the issue. Be fueled by optimism and possibility rather than by fear. What's the thing that fuels you? What gets you motivated? What makes you go? For me, some of it is the knowing that 20 years from now, I'll regret more of the things I didn't do than the things I did do. When I'm 80 years old, 20 years from now, will I look back and go, well, I kind of regret that I didn't do that thing when I had the ability to do it when I was 60. It seems like it's two old man ages. But move those dates down 50 years or 20 years or 30 years. When I was 20 and when I turned 40, am I going to look back and go, I wish I'd have done that thing when I was 20? When you're 40, you got a lot of time to redeem. When you're 50, can you look back and say, I wish I'd have done that thing when I was 30? No regrets. Make the thing happen. Make the possibilities work for you and be optimistic about it. So there's my little preachiness for today. All of you in here, everybody in here, we've all got our stuff and we've all got things that we want to do. We've all got places we want to go and be. And yet, am I going to, I look at the being trapped, that feeling of being trapped somewhere. And what is the feeling of being trapped always related to? It's always related to money, isn't it? I don't have the money to get out of here. I don't have the money to move on. I don't have the money to get myself out of this city or this borough that I live in, that is the slum I live in, or this ghetto that I live in, or whatever you might think it is, or this farm community I live in, or this small town, or this big city, or this little city, or I'm stuck where I am. I'm stuck having a job at the plant. You know what? I got a message for you. No, you aren't. You're not stuck anywhere. frankly, if I felt stuck where I am right now, I could load my family up in the truck and move to Beverly. No, I could move wherever I wanted to move. I could go somewhere else and start something else. There are always things that you can do to get out of a situation you don't want to be in, to improve your situation, to move forward. So this is all intent and visualization. If you feel stuck where you are, maybe you don't have the intention to get out of where you are. And by intention, I don't mean just the desire. Boy, I'd really like to get out of this. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. But I can't. That's not intention. Intention is doing something, making it happen, looking at the possibilities with optimism, and then forging forward. So there you go. So again, done preaching. Let's move on from that. And hopefully we all get that message, and we all want to work at making that stuff work for us. Yeah, GameStop isn't making a profit, says Field Guy, till 2023, but their stock went up like 2 million%. It's a scam, he says. I don't know. People are buying stock. Their stock's gone up. Does that mean they're making profits? I don't know. 2 million% is a hefty percentage point for your stock to go up. Yeah, you could build an ark out of shipping containers. Yeah, shipping containers. I'm not going to build an ark. I'm going to build a house. It's going to have a foundation. Boom, bang. I'm not going to float away anywhere. So we were looking at some land. Do you know land up here? Gorgeous piece of land. It looked like anyway. It didn't have a well on the land was the problem, but it has a stream running through it. Some woodsy areas, a little hilly here and there. I want to say it was 60 acres for $39,000. That's not so bad. In these parts, I've seen acreage going for $10,000 an acre. I'm like, are you kidding me? So just farmland out here. So $10,000 an acre. Those are the people selling at that price are the people that know that their land is being sought after. So this was out a little ways, maybe a 45-minute out into the country more. But within an hour and a half of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area and other towns. And you look at that and you go, $39,000 for 60 acres. Or am I thinking of that wrong? Maybe it was 39 acres, 40 acres for 60,000. That might be more it, but that's an awful lot of money. But no, it didn't seem like it was such a bad deal. And you can make an offer on a piece of land like that too. I look at that and I go, be awfully nice to have 40 acres or 60 acres. I'd take 10 acres right now to do some of the things we want to do. Rainey wants to put in a berry patch. I want to plant lavender. Believe it or not, there are strains of lavender you can plant in cold climates like it can get in the winters up here. But you can plant 10 acres of lavender, 5 acres of lavender, and yield, something like 100,000 a year off of 5 acres of lavender. Boom. Stuff like that is what I'm saying. There's always a way to do something, to get something done, to look at things that you want to try. Yeah, I'll plant lavender. I think that that'd be awfully darn cool. Planting lavender. And you can imagine all the uses of lavender right now. I think the particular business model I saw a few years ago was 20 acres of lavender. No, it was 10 acres. It was 10 acres of lavender yielded this guy about 400,000 gross per year. And then he had a little plant, like a little pole shed type of thing, a little log cabin-y type of building on his land that he used to process the lavender. And it was no big shakes. And he ended up doing all right with it. So I've thought about that. Lavender weed. Now that's a cash grab idea. There you go. So, lavender, you look at lavender, it's used for cosmetics, it's used for pigment, it's used for oils. There's all kinds of things to do with lavender. So, anyway, there's that. And so, sky's the limit. It's whatever you want to put into something is what you're going to be able to get out. That's intention, that's visualization, that's actualization. It's not that the universe needs your help to accomplish anything, but if you're the one doing the work, that's a big a big uphill climb to making a visualization and an intent come into a reality. So, in talking about the devil and all of that, I've got all this stuff I want to keep talking about the serpent's gift, about Gnosticism. And there are some essays that I want to go through that follow kind of Gnostic meditations on all of this stuff. They're thought experiments. They're designed to break that, what William Blake referred to as the mind-forged manacles. That's that stuff. Mind-forged manacles of the mind. That is those restricting assumptions, that systemic failure of imagination that defines the thought of those who can only reason or believe something, rather than go into meditation and go into the gnosis and knowing something. It's the things that constitute this different way of speaking, straining to realize itself. It's this intuitive vision in search of a genre. That sounded like the dog and the cat fighting out in the other room. I don't know if you heard that. I did. Interesting. And so it's the failure of imagination that define the thoughts of those who can only reason or believe. And it's this way of speaking or straining to realize itself. It's an intuitive vision in search of a genre. It's a mythos in search of a logos. And so in terms of actual content, there are some essays here I want to go through that treat the themes of eroticism. And I'm not talking porn. I'm not, when I say erotic, there's an eroticism of the soul, an eroticism of the mind. There's an eroticism, a humanism, a comparative mysticism, and esotericism, respectfully, that all work together. And it's often claimed as if this somehow settled the matter, that the critical study of religion is a Western project, a Western world project, an American project, or Western civilization as we know it. That the critical study of religion is something that was inspired largely, if not entirely, by Christian categories and institutional histories. And there's this, certainly is this great deal of truth to that observation. And I suspect it's more true than those who advance such a critique might first even imagine. Christianity, after all, most of us here, I think, grew up in or were schooled in Christianity, or we had that as a basis or a foundation to wherever we are now, either more Christianity or drifting away from Christianity or into something else. It contains within itself a radical critique. There's even a rejection of religion itself. If we define religion as that set of beliefs and social, dietary, ritual customs that are inherited from your family, your cultural tradition, your social beliefs, whatever it might be, it's not surprising that the critical study of religion itself arose within European Christianity. Out of Christianity came a critical study of Christianity, of what we say we believe. And this was advanced more dramatically by by secularized Jewish intellectuals, are typical outsiders of Christian Europe. And Christianity and Judaism, after all, were precisely the traditions that the various hermeneutics of suspicion were created to suspect. Get that? All those traditions were the hermeneutics of suspicion that were created to suspect all those things. And so I want to look at this. And the first couple of essays I'm going to go through here have this deep interlinking of Judaism, Christianity, and the critical study of religion through studies of the erotics of the gospel and the Gnostic literature and of the radical mystical humanism of the 19th century. And you can look at guys like, you can look these guys up. German Lutheran theologian Ludwig Feuerbach was one of these guys. And he has the Apocryphon of the Beloved. And so in Gnostic literature, an apocryphon is a secret book, something that was written, that was meant to hold the secrets of something. Or it's a secret that's teaching usually committed to a trusted disciple by Christ after his resurrection, but before he ascends into heaven. It's these kinds of teachings that we weren't supposed to be. It's like the Gospel of Judas Iscariot. That Gospel of Judas is an apocryphon because it deals with teachings that were delivered from Jesus to Judas alone and then put down in this book. And it's a, in other words, it's kind of this hidden pedagogical moment of revelatory significance is what an apocryphon is. And taking up just such a moment, you can take a look at the salient.
Where's the back scratcher?
Did you know I'm doing live radio? Did you know I'm on here with people? You want to say hi to everybody while you're here?
Do you know where the back scratcher?
Not while I'm doing live radio. I don't know where the back scratcher is. Okay. Thanks. I love you. Bye. There you go. Yeah, you can close that door. Thanks. Where's the back scratcher? That is my 6-year-old girl wandered in here without a stitch of clothing on, all wrapped her arms around her going, where's the back scratcher? You heard it. You heard it here first, too. So there you go. That's my family. Yeah, I could give her a sword. You know, I've had to use things like this. This is sitting here because my kids take my back scratcher off of my desk. I've had to use things like this, you know, where I've got this old rusty sword here. And I can't find a back scratcher. So I pull this out of the thing when it's sitting on there and I have to go, and I use the hilt piece there to go, oh, man, that's good. So, frankly, I have used a sword to scratch my back. All right, let me get that back where it goes. There we go. All right. So, there you are, folks. Familial interruption. That's the beauty of doing a live show, I guess. So, let's get back into this. We're looking at this whole Apocryphon of the Beloved is where I started. I started to kind of explain what the Apocrypha or an Apocryphon was. And so what you can do with this, we're going to look at this Apocryphon and look at the salient sexual trauma of the Apocryphon, the erotics of the mysticism, to the understanding the contours of different spiritualities. And you can do this by examining Jesus' sexuality from the womb to the tomb through the paradigmatic works of Theodore Jennings, Jane Schauberg, and others. Jennings explores, for example, the beloved disciple theme in the Gospel of John in order to construct a vision of Jesus as a gender-bending, homoerotic wisdom teacher. Now, I don't agree with any of that BS, but that's what they look at. That's the way some of these people try to break this stuff down. Scheberg, on the other hand, explores the Gnostic understandings of Jesus as a heteroerotic wisdom teacher whose primary apostle was Mary Magdalene. And his beloved friend, champion, and disciple, whom later Christian tradition under the authority of Peter turned into a repentant whore in order to deny her, and with all women, apostolic authority and the power to teach in the church. That's why Mary, and we've covered this before, that's why Mary Magdalene was turned into a whore by the early literalist Orthodox Christian church. It was so that women couldn't teach. They couldn't have the power to teach. All women were to be relegated to that category. So now, juxtaposing the homoerotic Jesus of Jennings alongside the heteroerotic Jesus of Scheberg, then that leads us to a kind of a Gnostic riddle, or a koan, K-O-A-N, here an apocryphon, in which the identity of the beloved disciple, John, who referred to himself as the beloved disciple of Jesus, and hence of Jesus' own love, is rendered historically, textually, and sexually ambiguous. So now, there are some Gnostic contours of modern critical thought here that we have to look at. It's striking that the Gnostic texts claim repeatedly that the original Adam, or the human one, knew more and more deeply than the Creator God. That is one of the charges made in Gnosticism of looking at this, of flipping around that Garden of Eden story, that the creation knew more than the Creator. The goal of much Gnostic ritual and speculation was to restore humanity to its unitary source in the pleroma, the fullness of the universe, via what the texts call the bridal chamber, an initiatory or baptismal rite that may have had actual sexual components to it. And well before Freud or Nietzsche or Ludwig Feuerbach attempted something similar through a radical reversal of all these psychological dynamics of projection. And for Feuerbach, religious ideas are human projections that alienate and impoverish us by denying what is best in us and projecting it into the sky. You get that? So, religious ideas, according to Feuerbach, were the things that are human projections. And they're things that we push up onto the heavenlies and onto God when they're actually things of the human heart. Susie Q says, oh yeah, I went to the Church of Christ for many years. Potlucks every third Sunday. Yeah, there you go. Homemade bread and rolls, says Susie, or Leslie. And so moving on with this, and proposing his projectionist method as a means to get the essence of Christianity and help affect the incarnation of God in humanity, Feuerbach, I suggest, was essentially proposing a kind of mystical humanism. And it takes up these ideas as the historical foundations of later critical thought, like you would find in Marxism, Nietzsche, Freud, Freudian psychology. And those three critical thinkers, whom Paul Rico so beautifully called our masters of suspicion. Those three. And so this isn't to suggest, however, that the modern study of religion and its specific forms of Gnosticism are restricted to Europe, or that they may not have enjoyed other streams of influence and transmission. In historical fact, these very same Gnostic strands were immeasurably enriched and strengthened through what Raymond Schwab. Now, I'm throwing out a lot of names here. These are a lot. I'm just throwing out the names without giving you biographies about who all they are. All are. You can look these names up and see who they were. They were all writers in this Gnostic stuff, religious. What's the word I'm looking for? Not categorization, but theorizing. And so Raymond Schwab called the Oriental Renaissance that immense efflorescence of cross-cultural contact between Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. That's pretty much half of the world right there when you put those all together. And it occurred in the 17th through the 19th centuries and thereby set up the cultural conditions linked to both European romanticism and colonialism. And that's what made the comparative study of religion possible at all, was by combining these and looking at them all. And this is a comparative is what you're looking at. And those historical encounters as both romantic enthusiasts, colonial crimes, display both deeply problematic and profoundly positive dimensions. That's a dichotomy is right there. And comparative mystics. You have to turn to one of these historical moments, the encounter between Shakta Tantric Hinduism and British colonialism in the 19th century, Calcutta. And by the way, I'm not describing a lot of these. What you might go, what the hell is Shakta Tantric Hinduism? What's British colonialism? We know what that is. But you put those two things together in the 19th century Calcutta and attempt to employ both its romantic and colonial lessons to think anew about the comparative method as this radical mystical practice, or sadhana, of universalism, assimilation, cultural transcendence, all of those things. I remember when I was a kid in the mid to late 60s, and my aunt was a flower child, a hippie, and all her friends were always doing meditations and love, man. And they'd sit and they'd meditate, and they would do this to find transcendence, this transcendental meditation. And it always seemed like kind of weird stuff to me. And I once interrupted one of them who was meditating, and he goes, "Hey, man," he says, "sorry, I was meditating. I didn't hear you right away." And he wasn't asleep, but he said, just kind of broke my consciousness there, and so I'm a little out of it. Sorry about that. I remember that little confrontation. So now, these things I'm talking about here, they comprise and constitute a meditation on eroticism, humanism, and comparativism. Okay? And you have to take stock within a little interlude here and look at these themes. And before moving on to a different sort of exercise, make a playful application of the first three meditations. More specifically, I'm finally concerned about how Gnostic intellectuals, you, me, anybody who is intellectually putting power into understanding Gnosticism, understanding the mysticism, understanding to know things, I'm concerned how we might all best communicate what it is that we claim to know to the broader world at large around us, without falling into the ethical trap of an unnecessary elitism or an arrogance to say, I have attained to this thing and I'm going to try to explain it to you. It's not what I'm doing here. This problem is significantly magnified in the present context for the reasons already enunciated. The essentially esoteric nature of the gnosis involved, and the histories of rejection and censorship that have defined both the historical religious traditions themselves and the contemporary fundamentalist or nationalist rejection of religious studies altogether as being blasphemous or imperialist or hegemonic and so on. And so, as an imaginative way around this basic epistemological problem, I have to turn to this final essay that I've got up in front of me here that I kind of call the mutant marvels to popular and material culture, and in particular to the modern American mythologies of the comic book, taking up Stan Lee, the late Stan Lee, his tale of the X-Men, of Professor Xavier, of his secret band of extraordinary individuals or mutants, as a kind of a multi-dimensional allegory. This chapter of this train of thought is something that probes this interface between religious studies, scholarship, American pop culture, and possible psychical phenomenon. Now, there is a double form of knowledge that scholars of religion often possess, and one intuitive and rational, mystical and reductive. All those things wrapped up together are unknown, even secret, to the vast majority of Americans. And that the often provocative, subversive implications of such knowledges routinely render scholars absolutely suspect, if not actually censorable, in the public's eye as cultural or religious mutants. And more radically, I could go to my old seminary professors, my old seminary buddies, and I start talking about the things we're talking about here, and I'm looked at as a backslider, or looked at as somebody who has lost touch with the God of his salvation. Certainly a mutant of senses is where this analogy comes in. I've mutated into something different than what I was. And so I suggest that the fantastic superpowers of the comic book heroes are relatively accurate exaggerations of erotic, traumatic, psychical, dissociative phenomenon, well known to the historian of religions. And finally, I have to ask how scholars of religion can now face the challenge of communicating their own mutant forms of knowledge and consciousness and their own rational gnosis to an American and global public that might reject what they have to say. Macabre, exactly, Sterling. Bye to those guys, and really, I have, in a sense that I've moved on from that. I've moved on from worrying about what they think about what I have to say. I still have some pretty good friends that I communicate with. I'm pretty sure they look at my stuff and they go, "Oh man, Scotty's going off the deep end again." And I maybe some of this stuff is really thick. It's really heavy trying to describe some of these things. But remember, I talked about the hissing of the serpent, the teaching of the serpent. If my own hissing in this stuff, this sense of the serpent's gift expressed in these 4 essays, is Gnostic in any sense for its content and the things you pull out of it, it doesn't need to be so, because it represents, or at least mimics, this set of subjective experiences that some might wish to label mystical or spiritual. I look at this stuff that I'm presenting and I say, I haven't got a handle on all of this stuff. This is just the stuff I think about. It's what goes through my head. It's saying I could be very simplistic in this, and I'm trying to take this to kind of a next level explanation. That's why it's so thick and heavy. But I don't mean it to be weighting you down in the way you think about this. But I could just simply say that there are things out there in our religious traditions and our experiences and our teachings that we just know isn't so. And there's something about that we need to look into, we need to dig into in order to try to understand what either the text is saying. We have to deconstruct it in order to reconstruct it into something that's workable and believable. And that's what I'm doing here. That's what I mean by this. It might be explicit in its intent to show that those levels of human experience that first seem separate are, in fact, immediately relatable. This mystical and spiritual side of things, even united on some deeper level or hyperdimension. Think about that. The male and the female, the heteroerotic, the homoerotic, Adam and Eve, the sexual and the spiritual, the faith and the reason, all flung together. East and west, sameness and difference. Glorifying in something and being shameful in something. It's the pre-modern and the postmodern kind of thrown together. High and low culture of all these binarisms, the collapse in postmodern gnosis of the serpent's gift that's offered up. And in the end, I don't seek so much to communicate a rational message, which is reason, or although I want to be reasonable so you can understand what I'm thinking, or to undergird a particular system of belief, which is faith, as to transmit a sudden shock or gnosis, rather like what happens when you stumble upon a snake talking to you through the hissing whispers of your own secret mind. So I want you to take on that wonder. And wow, it's already 10 o'clock, 2 minutes up. I'm just going to start getting into the Apocryphon of the Beloved. And I'm going to leave you with this thought on this lesson for tonight. The Bible must be shaken upside down before it will yield all of its secrets. The priests have censored and clipped and mangled. They give us a celibate Jesus, born of a virgin without the slightest stain of sexual contact, which is, frankly, in my book, blasphemous nonsense. So not all men can receive this saying, but only those to whom it is given. That's what Jesus on the eunuch saying in Matthew 19:11. So this digging into these essays, the first one's going to be about invocation. It's going to be about this, or the invocation, introducing the Apocryphon of the Beloved. So we're going to look at that next time, tomorrow night, probably, and talk about that some more. What does Delaney had to say here? Oh my God, guess what Rick's Celtic zodiac is? The falcon, and I'm the duck. The falcon and the duck. At least you're both foul. Play on words there. All right. So, Leslie, I'll take a picture of my purchase. So okay, that's something different. That's Susie Q. That's between you guys. Leslie says, good night, all you amazing Intrepids. Have a beautiful day tomorrow. Guys, I want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for trudging through this heavier stuff. I think there's some value in this and looking at things. And at the same time, I'm going to be paradoxical because I don't know that I believe all this stuff. I just think about this stuff and I'm putting it through the rigors of trying to figure it out. One thing I do know, like that last little section, you got to turn the Bible upside down and shake it out a bit to see what's really there and what's between the lines. I think it's worth doing. Some of us may come back full circle and be right where we left off. Go, okay, that was interesting. Here's where I am. Some of us may go, I need to revise my thinking a bit. That's the exercise here. All right. So there you go, guys. Thanks, Susie Q. Much love to you too. Oh, snake is a duck. That's a snake. You know how it appears on my end? It looks like a little yellow rubber ducky with an orange bill and an eyeball. It's about that big on my screen. And it looks like a duck. Sorry about that, Delaney. It's a snake. So you guys are the falcon and the snake. Got it. So, Morgan, you have a good day tomorrow, too. Enjoy your snow day. Yeah. And looks like a duck to Scott Allen, too. You got to see, Delaney, see if they have another snake icon in there. And Leslie thought it was a rubber ducky, too. So no offense to you, Delaney. That's the way their icon is appearing when you use it. So Serpentine Guns and Roses, says Michelle. Cannon free. Nice to see you, Michelle. So, all right, guys. We're going to be done for tonight. It's 10 o'clock. It's 10:02, actually. We've run a little bit over because we were doing a live show. So we're going to take a 23-hour break and come back here tomorrow. And we're going to cover a little bit more of this. And I hope this is exciting for you and it's interesting for you. Not everything can I put in this context of being fun and exciting in the sense of it's like pop cultural entertainment. I hope that you can take the entertainment value and mix it sometimes with some of this heavier stuff and think about it with me and see where you're at. So there we go, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your time to spend it with me for an hour to talk about weird and wacky stuff like Gnosticism. All right, guys, we're going to go out. I'll see you tomorrow. You have a good night. You have a good day tomorrow. And we'll see you right back here. Good night.